Charlie Kirk Show starts now.
The Supreme Court now allowing the Trump administration to move ahead with plans to end the controversial temporary protected status program. The order lifts an injunction put in place by a federal judge in San Francisco. The decision would, for now, allow the White House to move forward with deportations of more than 500,000 immigrants from Cuba, Haiti, Nicaragua, and Venezuela.
So do you disagree with the cuts that are being proposed for Medicaid right now?
Well, the cuts, this is I don't know if you understand this or whether you're just mouthing, the Democratic talking points. The cuts to Medicaid are for fraud, waste, and abuse, and I'll tell you what that means. We were able to determine, and it's about 8 million people who would be affected. Because of DOGE, we were able to determine that there are 1 million people who are claiming Medicaid from multiple states. That's illegal.
Today, we also remember 3 remarkable heroes who will become the medal's first ever recipients. It's a big honor. Corporal Luis Piez Jr., Deputy Sheriff Ralph Butch Waller Jr., and Deputy Sheriff Ignacio Dan Diaz. Together, they dedicated their lives to protecting the people of Palm Beach County and well beyond. And they were beloved by everyone and respected by all.
You were back in the middle of a political firestorm.
Yeah, for walking on the beach with my wife. So I don't know how we ended up here. It never occurred to me that it was any kind of controversial thing, but that's the time we live in.
I mean, the numbers don't lie, Will. It literally starts at Election Day for President Trump and the inauguration and what we've been building. It's been a surge. We can barely keep up with the amount of people that want to join the U.S. military, which is about the biggest vote of confidence I could conceive of.
Today, it's my honor to officially sign the Take It Down Act into law. With the rise of AI image generation, countless women have been harassed with deepfakes and other explicit images distributed against their will, and today we're making it totally illegal.
The bill is big, the bill is beautiful, and it's going to be great for America. It will pass. President Trump is the best negotiator in history. He's negotiated hundreds of deals over the course of a decades-long career in every field, from housing to commercial real estate to international trade deals, and the president will get this bill over the line, too.
And it takes a long time to get to that situation. Now, I think, to get to a stage 9, I think that if you take a look, it's the same doctor that said that Joe was cognitively fine. There was nothing wrong with him. The AutoPen is becoming a big deal because it seems like that maybe was the president who ever operated the AutoPen.
He did not develop it in the last 100, 200 days. He had it while he was president. He probably had it at the start of his presidency in 2021.
President Trump is pursuing economic growth, and that's why he's got all of these other elements in the agenda: deregulation and the tax cut extensions, and tapping into energy.
But really the focus right now, let's get Trump's agenda done. Let's get peace through strength. Let's get our budget balance. That's our real focus. Let's get transparency, accountability back in government.
I will summarize the president's trip with an anecdote that I heard directly from a member of one of the foreign delegations. He told me when President Trump won the election, it was like the lights turned on in a dark room. For the past 4 years to the rest of the world, America was dark. We were unresponsive. We did not pick up the phone. We did not return calls. All of that has changed under the leadership of this president.
At Turning Point USA, what we are doing every single day is we are dedicating ourselves and our staff and our students and our activists for a full revival of America.
Get ready to launch into the future of freedom at the largest student event in the nation. SAS is back. Join thousands of fellow students ready to pioneer a bold new era for America at our Student Action Summit. And we're bringing in the biggest voices in the movement. Featuring Charlie Kirk, Tucker Carlson, Steve Bannon, Dr. Ben Carson, Congresswoman Anna Paulina Luna, Brandon Tatum, James O'Keefe, Benny Johnson, Jack Posobiec, and more. From July 11th through 13th in Tampa, Florida. Register now at SAS2025.com.
The Charlie Kirk Show. wide-ranging. Information coming from every angle with the will to deceive. Fear not. You found the place for truth. The voice of a generation that still has the will to believe in the greatest country in the history of the world. This is the Charlie Kirk Show. Buckle up. Here we go.
All right, welcome to the Charlie Kirk Show. Andrew Colvett in for the one and only Charlie Kirk, who is traveling the globe. He's in the United Kingdom today. Lots of fun stuff. He just debated at Cambridge yesterday. It was legitimately about 400 students to one. Very raucous crowd. I'm excited to hear his feedback on that today. He's going to be at Oxford. So say a prayer that the truth would get out and the conservative values would continue spreading across the globe. The revival that we see in the United States would happen abroad. But I do not want to waste any time. We have a very special guest. This Borders-Czar Tom Homan joining the show. Mr. Borders-Czar, welcome to the Charlie Kirk Show.
Hey, thanks for having me.
So I want to jump right in. This one big, beautiful bill, one of the main priorities is securing the border, but mass deportations as well. Tell us what's in the bill that you love, that you're excited about, that your border agents need, the border security needs.
Well, look, it's going to add more border patrol agents to the border, along with OFO, which are the people who work the port of entries. It's going to add more technology to port of entry, so we seize more drugs and more contraband coming through. Still speeding up the legal trade, but having the most recent up-to-date technology to move traffic quicker, but still catch the contraband. It's going to help us finish the wall. I mean, not only finish the wall, several hundred miles of the wall, but it's going to also fund several hundred miles of water buoys placed in the river that are actually very, very effective. And it's going to save lives, because once a lot of illegal aliens see that buoy that you can't get over, you can't get under, they won't risk getting in the river and drowning. It's going to save a lot of lives. But the technology, even the existing wall, the new wall that President Trump built under 45, Joe Biden came in and not only ended building more wall, but ended the technology that went into the existing wall that allows agents to have, if you touch the wall, we know. If you dig under the wall, we know. If you climb the wall, we know, because there's all sorts of technology within that wall. But most importantly, within that technology, give Border Patrol agents ability to talk on one another in dead areas. There's a lot of areas on the border where there is no radio tower. There is no capability of a repeater system. So when agents got to have an emergency, talk to another agent for backup, there are some dead areas on the border. That's going to improve communications all across the border. So it's going to fund that in the border so we can finish what we started. The border is more secure in a lifetime. We got to finish the job. This could be the first administration ever to have total operational control of our southern border. So we need to finish it. We need money to do that. As far as interior operations, that funds more ICE agents. It's going to fund more detention beds, which we really seriously need. Right now, we got about 50,000 in detention. We need 100,000 beds to even put a dent in what we're trying to do here. So it's going to let us find beds, because every person we arrest, we got to vet them before we get travel documents, send them home. So it's going to buy us more beds. It's going to buy us more vehicles. It's going to increase ICE by 10,000, which we need. Right now, there's 6,000 ERO officers compared to 20 million illegal aliens. So we got a big hill to climb. So it's going to add more agents. It's going to add more money for more beds. It's going to add money for more transport, both over the ground, bus transport in the interior, plus international flights. It's going to add money to that. It's also going to allow us to build out more contract work. So rather than a badge and gun with Title 8 authority, immigration authority sitting doing an administrative job, let's get a contractor to do that job and put that badge and gun on the street. So it allows for all these things so we can continue doing what we're doing, increase the interior enforcement arrests as American people have mandated President Trump to do. It's going to let us finish the job we started. We're doing great, but we need more money. The more money we have, the more good stuff we can do.
Yeah, and Mr. Homan, you have come on this show before, and you asked for about 150 to 175 billion. I've heard you use both numbers in passing. So it allocates 150 billion via defense spending, but then another 70 billion for border security funding. Is it enough?
I'd like to see more, but right now we're hurting for every dollar that we can get. Right now, this morning I woke up, looked at empty beds. We got about 2,800 empty beds right now. We'll fill them in 3 days. So we need money quickly to buy more beds, or everything stops. So I'll take whatever we can get because, every dollar we got means we're going to do more work. I'd like to see, like you said earlier, $150 billion just on border and interior enforcement. But we'll see when the final number comes out. But, we desperately need the money right now. I think ICE is in the hole. $500 million. I think they're in the hole almost $500 million because we got 52,000 in detention. We're funded at 34. So we're already in the hole. So a lot of this money is going to be, getting ICE out of the hole, plus adding beds to get above the line. So we desperately need money. So I hope the final number is bigger than that, but I'll take what we can get.
So, Mr. Homan, you've come on this show before in the past as well, and you've said, "Hey, listen, we're doing the first worst. We're getting the worst are getting out first, but we got to do more." And I believe I've heard numbers around 150,000 that have been deported so far. I've seen that you've been frustrated that you couldn't get that higher faster, but again, this resource crunch that you're experiencing at ICE and DHS, will this deliver, let's say, 500,000 to 1 million deportations a year? Is that a number that's realistic if this budget gets passed?
Well, 500,000 is absolutely realistic. We're shooting for 1 million, but 500,000 is realistic. And look, with sanctuary cities, they put speed bumps in on us because rather than arresting a bad guy in the county jail, now we got to go to community and find him. Somebody don't want to be found. That slows us down. We got district court judges issuing nationwide injunctions against our enforcement operation. That slows us down. But again, it's all about manpower. It's all about more money for manpower, more market for targeting. Look, there's a lot of smart companies out there, a lot of smart businesses out there with the most recent technology to help us find those people that don't want to be found. So bring some of these contracts up, help improve targeting. But the most important thing is resources, beds, planes, buses, and boots on the ground. And this bill will get us there. It'll get us the resources we need. I'm looking to do 3 times more than we're currently doing. So the numbers are higher than the Biden's numbers. I should be happy with that, but I'm not. I'm not satisfied. We love
that about you, Tom. We love that about you, that you are never going to be satisfied until every person who broke the law to get into this country is held accountable, put to the back of the line, gone through the legal process. Now, I want to bring this up. I've debated whether or not to because I think it's ridiculous. But this Rep. LaMonica McIver, she was just charged yesterday. Alina Habba, acting U.S. attorney in the Newark area, charged her. President Trump says, "Did you give me a break? Did you see her? She was out of control." What's your message to representatives like LaMonica McIver that are actively assaulting ICE agents and the people that work under you?
The same message I've used since January 20th with sanctuary jurisdictions and politicians. I say, I've been saying 1,000 times, you cannot support ICE. Shame on you. You can support sanctuary cities. Shame on you. Sanctuary cities, you can step back and watch us do your job, make your community safer, and not assist us with criminals, public safety threats in your community. But don't cross that line. I've used the term "don't cross the line" since January 20th. If you cross that line of impeding our enforcement efforts, that's a felony. If you cross that line unknowingly and harboring or concealing an illegal alien from ICE, that's a felony. You can't criminal trespass in our facilities. And you certainly can't put hands on an ICE officer. And that's what she did. So she's being held accountable. Remember, we got 2 judges being prosecuted. We got a mayor that's arrested. We got a congresswoman. And look, they're not above the law either. They've been preaching 4 years. Trump wasn't above the law. Well, either are they. And I wasn't bluffing. We're going to hold people accountable. You break the law, we're going to seek prosecution.
I think I join with millions of Americans around the country and say, Mr. Bordesar, you are a breath of fresh air. You're a national treasure. We have your back 100%. Thank you for coming on the show. We hope that this bill gets passed. If there's anything that needs to get fixed, we want to see them fixed, but we hope this bill gets passed and you get the resources you need to protect this country. We're honored that you're serving in the way you are. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for having me.
We'll be right back.
gentleness, and spirit. You're listening to The Charlie Kirk Show.
All right, welcome back to The Charlie Kirk Show, your guest host for the day, often behind the mic. Honored to be with you, to our Real America's Voice audience. Andrew Colvett, I'm the executive producer of this show. I'm also spokesman for Turning Point USA and Turning Point Action, and I work directly with Charlie's schedule, and that's why I know that Charlie is in the UK today. He debated at Cambridge yesterday, about 300 or 400 students on one, quite literally. And he's going to be at Oxford today. So please say a prayer for him that the truth would get out, just like it did on the campus tour that went so viral everywhere. And by the way, these kids in the UK and in France, they're seeing these clips just like American kids are seeing them. Charlie's getting stopped all the time on the streets in the UK. People saying, you helped convince me of the different way of seeing the world. And that tour was sponsored by YRefi. YRefi.com. This is private student loan debt in the United States is about $300 billion, and $45 billion of that is also distressed. YRefi refinances distressed or defaulted private student loans that others will not touch. I've met this team. They are good people, I'm telling you, and they support the mission of Turning Point. They support the mission of getting kids the relief that they need. Also, the parents, if you co-signed, this could be a really big deal for you as well. If you co-sign those loans, so go to YRefi.com, check it out. They have plans that will match your ability to pay. So check it out, YRefi.com. All right, so we're going to welcome back radio in just a second, I believe, if I'm getting my cues here right. And I believe we are welcoming back radio in just a second. So stay right there. Much more to get to. Don't go anywhere. This is the Charlie Kirk Show. I'm your guest host for the day, Andrew Colvett. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the Charlie Kirk Show. Charlie Kirk is on assignment in the United Kingdom. We're excited to hear updates as they come. I'm your guest host, Andrew Colvett. Honored to be with you, as always, when I get the opportunity. So today, the big news, and we just had Tom Homan on, a great American, absolute patriot. But the big news today is that President Trump visited Capitol Hill to go whip votes for his one big, beautiful bill. Now, if I could lay out the landscape for you, it's essentially this. You've got the SALT holdouts. Now, this is despite the fact that they've increased SALT deductions from about $12,000 to $30,000. New York congressmen like Rep. Lawler are saying that's not going to be good enough. LaLota, the same. I think they're out way over their skis on this. As somebody who lives in California would personally benefit from something like this, they're way out over their skis. And I'll tell you why. Because this is going to get to the U.S. Senate, and there are approximately this many senators that care about these SALT deductions. It's different than the House. In the House, you can have conservatives that are elected in districts that are conservative in a blue state. That's not the case with the United States Senate. Those are statewide races, and if you are a conservative, you're not going to win those races, right? So that's why it's going to go and die in the U.S. Senate. And so the SALT folks need to take a win. They need to take a middle ground and get to a point. Now, Speaker Johnson offered a $40,000 for 4 years deduction, and then it would revert back. They say that's not good enough. They're asking for 50 over 10 years, guaranteed, or something approximately at that point. When we're dealing with a bill where the math does not work out, where the ends do not meet, and we're looking at a deficit increase, not a reduction, that dog ain't gonna hunt. So I want to just echo President Trump and say that the SALT deductions, it's helping blue state governors. Now, we want to help all states, but we don't want to encourage blue states that are taxing at a huge high rate, and then they get rewarded for it, and the federal government bails them out. We want to encourage good behavior. We want to incentivize good behavior. The other issue is Medicaid and Medicare. Okay, Medicare. The Democrats are going out there and they are saying that the Republicans are going to cut Medicare. They're going to cut Medicaid. That's not true. There's a lot of waste, fraud, and abuse. There's illegal aliens. There's murderers, known murderers that are taking Medicaid. Now, Medicaid is designed to help those. It's mean tested, so that means it's designed to help those that need it. Right, the poor, working class, pregnant mothers. And there's a lot of waste, fraud, and abuse. So let's hear it in President Trump's own words so we can get this out of the way. Cut 243.
The only thing we're cutting is waste, fraud, and abuse. We're not changing Medicaid, and we're not changing Medicare, and we're not changing Social Security.
So he says it very clearly. We're not changing. We're just getting rid of waste, fraud, and abuse. That's it. That's a really big thing to get rid of. And by the way, that there is so much waste, fraud, and abuse in Medicaid that I don't think the average American can fully appreciate. And the Democrats are hopping up and down, screaming, crying. That is misplaced outrage. That's a lie. That's fear-mongering. That's not what's happening here. Let's get to another person that you may not expect to hear from in the Medicaid debate, and that's RFK Jr. Now, obviously, as Secretary of Health and Human Services, he knows a thing or two about what's going on in the health space and how the federal government's funding the health space. 244.
So do you disagree with the cuts that are being proposed for Medicaid right now?
Oh, the cuts to, this is I don't know if you understand this or whether you're just mouthing, the Democratic talking points. The cuts to Medicaid are for fraud, waste, and abuse. And I'll tell you what that means. We were able to determine, and it's about 8 million people who would be affected. Because of DOGE, we were able to determine that there are 1 million people who are claiming Medicaid from multiple states. That's illegal.
1 million people claiming Medicaid from multiple states. Obviously, that's illegal. And I just want to be very clear. I'm sympathetic to the budget hawks. We want to see the budget balanced. We want to see the spending go down to pre-COVID levels. This bill does not do that, and we have to be very clear about that. Now, the question then becomes, does the bill deserve to pass at all? I believe, yes, it does. I believe there's a few cuts, there's a few tweaks that need to happen. President Trump is saying this morning that he wants to see this bill go over to the Senate. He likes what they are proposing even more than what the House has. He says they have a few things that he likes even better. Now, they don't have a bill written, but President Trump is behind the scenes. He's working on some of these negotiations. He sees some of the stuff and he likes it better. So this bill is going to be tweaked between now and then. In the next segment, I want to get into some of the comments Rep. Andy Harris made on War Room yesterday with Steve Bannon. I think they are legitimate, and I want to dive into them. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Welcome back to this Real America's Voice news break. I'm Terrence Bates. President Trump is back at the White House after making his way to Capitol Hill first thing this morning to encourage lawmakers to pass his one big, beautiful bill. The spending plan is headed to the House Rules Committee at 1 o'clock tomorrow morning. If it passes there, it could face a full House vote before the weekend. Here's how Ohio Congressman Jim Jordan describes that bill.
Embraces three fundamental Republican principles: cut taxes, secures the border, requires work. We're the party that believes you should let mom and dads keep more of their money to chase down their goals and dreams. We're the party that believes you should actually have a secure border. This bill does it.
Meantime, Secretary of State Marco Rubio facing off with his former colleagues in the U.S. Senate. He is offering up an encore testimony before the Senate Appropriations Committee's State and Foreign Operations Subcommittee later on this afternoon. Secretary Rubio will be back tomorrow to face members of the House Foreign Affairs Committee and the House Appropriations Committee. Today's testimony is focused partially on plans to undo sanctions against Syria. Secretary Rubio has also been challenged on the administration's policies relative to Israel and Gaza, as well as Russia and Ukraine. Some Democrats on the committee are on the record saying that they regret having voted to confirm Rubio. He, of course, passed the confirmation process without opposition. And while President Trump shifts his focus to domestic issues today, he still has one eye on the ongoing war between Russia and Ukraine. Following a 2-hour call with Russian President Vladimir Putin on Monday, the commander-in-chief says that Russia and Ukraine will immediately start negotiations towards a ceasefire and, more importantly, an end to the war. That's a direct quote from his Truth Social post. 47 also says that Russia wants to do a large-scale trade with the United States once the war is over. He goes on to describe the conflict as a bloodbath. President Trump continuing to lead the peace effort as he immediately informed other NATO stakeholders of the progress that he's making. That list includes French President Emmanuel Macron, European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen, along with Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni. That's a quick check of your headlines.
Start making some. The Charlie Kirk Show.
All right, welcome back to the Charlie Kirk Show. Andrew Colvin, I'm the executive producer of this fine show and sometimes guest host. Honored to be with you as always. We're diving into this big, beautiful bill, and we're taking stock. President Trump visited the Capitol Hill today to make his pitch, and it's going, I would say, mixed. It's going mixed, okay? But before we get into that, I'm going to tell you about Hillsdale College. History, economics, the great works of literature. Did you study these things in school? Probably not. But even if you did, maybe it's time for a refresher course. This would be the boat that I'm in. Hillsdale College is offering more than 40 free online courses, including their newest course on totalitarian novels. In this free 8-lecture course, you'll learn from Hillsdale College President Larry Arnn, the legend himself, as he goes in depth on 1984, Brave New World, Darkness at Noon, and That Hideous Strength. Even though these novels were written in the 1930s and 40s, they're more relevant now than ever before, especially as we have this crazy globalist tyranny stretching across the Atlantic, impacting all of our lives. More importantly, they can show us how faith, family, and friends are worth fighting for. Maybe you read these books long ago. Maybe you've heard others talk about them and you're intimidated by the topic when it gets brought up. Let Hillsdale College help you to make the most out of them. Go right now to charlieforhillsdale.com to enroll. There's no cost. It's free. It's fun. It's educational. They do such a good job with these courses, too. I mean, the quality is amazing. That's charlieforhillsdale.com to register. CHARLIE for Hillsdale.com. Check it out right now. All right. So this one big, beautiful bill, let's give it some due. I do have some notes. I have some notes. That's okay. We support the president's agenda. We think this is going to get passed. It has to get passed. You heard from Tom Homan. He needs every dollar he can get to get these mass deportations up, which I believe is the one main reason. Trump was elected for a lot of reasons. It was a large coalition with a lot of priorities. The border was number one. We got to get this passed, even if it's just for the border. By the way, we tax remittances. That's when foreigners, often illegals, send money back to their home country, the place where they should go be living right now. We tax that. It's good. It's an incentive to say, hey, you're not going to get away for free here. All right. We're either going to deport you or we're going to tax you. No free rides, folks. But let's give the bill its due. All right. This is Mike Johnson talking about some of the good things in the bill, 274. Do we have 274?
We're repealing and rolling back over $500 billion in funding for the radical Green New Deal policies from Biden's so-called Inflation Reduction Act. We call it the Inflation Act. We're ending Biden's war on American energy. We're banning Medicaid dollars from going to transgender surgeries for minors. We're canceling Biden's student loan repayment program. We're increasing university endowment tax for these big woke institutions. We're revoking tax exempt status for nonprofits that materially support terrorism. We're doubling the jail time for leaks of confidential taxpayer information. We're eliminating big businesses' ability to engage in woke PR campaigns to facilitate refundability for green energy projects. We're incentivizing federal workforce to be at-will employees, and we're repealing Biden's disastrous EV mandate.
So let's give it its due. This bill is beautiful. There is a lot of big beautifulness in this bill. We like this bill. Directionally, this bill is great. Okay? What we're talking about is fighting over the edges, but those edges can have massive implications, especially when it comes to Medicaid, pardon me. Medicaid, the Medicaid scam that some of these states pull is incredible. Now, we're getting rid of these able-bodied subsidies, right? So if somebody's able to work and they're not working and we're still funding them, this is the number one area of expansion of the federal budget, and nobody is seriously trying to fight this except for these four holdouts. So my sympathies lie with them, genuinely. And I want to hear from Rep. Andy Harris here, 272.
Bottom line is, if we don't get significant spending reduction, this bill is not going anywhere this week. We were warning about it in the Freedom Caucus for really years, that we have to get our debt and deficit in order. They're whistling past the graveyard. It's like that never happened. But it did happen, and we have to get back to pre-COVID spending levels wherever we can. We certainly can with Medicaid, because the fraud, waste, and abuse, the gaming of the system, the giving benefits to 2.5 million illegal immigrants. I mean, this is ridiculous. It has to stop. We have a long way to go. We don't get there by Wednesday, and the word is they want to have this vote Wednesday. There's just no way it's passing on Wednesday.
He continues. 273.
This is the graph of what the Republican plan is for Medicaid spending over the next 10 years. This assumes that we actually get all the able-bodied single people without children on Medicaid to agree to work 20 hours a week or volunteer at a church or train. And if we eliminate all the fraud, waste, and abuse, and there's plenty of it, we're left with at least a 25% increase in Medicaid over the next 10 years from the current spending level. Only in Washington could anyone claim that's a cut.
So that was obviously from the House floor. Now, there is a scam here where, and people, it's wonky. I don't want to get too into the weeds, but it's called FMAP. It's the federal. I'll get the acronym for you in a second. It's the Federal Medical Assistance Percentage. So basically, it's a mean-tested program, meaning that the poorer states get more federal matching dollars than the rich states. But what the states do, and this is one of Chip Roy's big problems, is that they charge a provider tax on it. So if we send $10,000 to California, they'll bump it up by 5%. And then there's little carve-outs, and then they take that money and they fund Medi-Cal, and they give it to illegals or different things, or Planned Parenthood. That stuff needs to stop, and Chip Roy's 100% right on that. So where we stand right now on the big, beautiful bill, Chip Roy's probably a no. All the SALT guys, that would be Stefanik, Garbarino, Lawler, Lalota, Young Kim, Tom King Jr., Langworthy. Those guys are all probably a no because they're going to hold fast in their coalition for these SALT exemptions. Now, again, I think that horse ain't going to hunt. They've already gotten a concession, maybe albeit a small one. That's what you're going to get. When it goes to the Senate, that's not going to pass. And a no for now. These are people that I believe will support the bill. They're speaking in such a way that says that they are going to support the bill, but they want to hold out for some additional tweaks. And again, Trump has said he's open to tweaks. He wants tweaks, but he wants this to pass, and he wants to pass soon. That's Ralph Norman, Eli Crane, the great Eli Crane from Arizona, Rich McCormick, Eric Burleson, Mark Harris, Andrew Clyde, Tim Burchett, Keith Self, Warren Davidson, Andy Biggs, Andy Harris, Andy Ogles. Now, these are a lot of the Freedom Caucus guy, the budget hawks. Trump said in his presser this morning, he said, lay off my Freedom Caucus guy. Those are my people. So there's no beef there. Now Thomas Massie and Trump, that relationship is basically done. Trump is saying he wants Thomas Massie out. He doesn't understand government. Thomas Massie's an always no. There's nothing I can do to win their vote. Okay. Well, that's one. We don't have much more to give than that. All right. And we were going to have Chip Roy on this morning. Unfortunately, schedules, everything's going crazy, but he was scheduled to be on right now explaining some of his holdouts now, some of his reservations. But I think he's making some good points that we have to stop the expansion of this Medicaid graft and spending and abuse. Illegals have no place on Medicaid. We need to get them all off. I think everybody's united on that. We have to stop this FMAP stuff where we're paying way too much to the states and we're incentivizing them to expand the amount of spending in this way. So all in all, there's a lot to love in this bill. It is 95% of the way there, maybe 98% of the way there, but the devil is in the details. These last 2% are important fixes. I do want to see them get fixed, and hopefully we see some progress on them. Now, you've got this bill will now have to go to the Senate, okay? So we don't know how this is going to happen. We are told that we're not going to have a CBO score until after they vote on this bill. So that, to me, is a little bit fishy as well. Now, I get the urgency that we want to push this forward. We want to push this forward. We want to push this forward. We want to get Trump as win. We all agree. We love 95%, 98% of this bill, but we got to make sure that we bring these no votes into the fold, listen to some of their pushbacks. Now, this SALT thing, I think, is dead on arrival. I told you that multiple times. But what are we going to do? Here is Steve Scalise admitting that Medicaid is, in fact, going to grow. 207.
Medicaid still grows under this bill. If somebody's able-bodied and they can go get a job and they're living in their mom's basement playing video games, I'm sorry, you got to go get a job. This program was designed for the truly needy, the disabled people, pregnant women, seniors. Those are the people we're going to help more by shoring the program up.
So there's no cuts. I would like to see more cuts, but the fear-mongering from the left is just simply not true. Even Andy Harris admits it. This is going to grow by about 25% over the next couple of years. And we're going to see what happens. These are going to be high drama. If you are a fan of Congress, which would make you in the minority, but if you enjoy the way the sausage gets made, this is high drama stuff. You're going to be glued to your X feed and to your television screen for the next couple of days. But this is high drama stuff. Again, the SALT caucus is breaking. They have reached out to the speaker to tell him they are a no on the bill after the Trump speech at the conference. So again, SALT caucus, that would be the Stefanik, Garbarino, Lawler, Lalota, Young Kim, Tom King Jr., Langworthy. Those guys are all no. So they're holding out for more SALT reductions. Trump told Lawler this morning during his session with House Republicans, he said, I know your district better than you do, and if you're going to lose because you don't get SALT reductions, you were going to lose anyway. And I think he's probably right on that. But it is very possible that Trump's tough language could have driven a wedge even further, made them dig in even further here. We're going to see how that plays out. But we don't have a bill yet. We love most of it. We want to see it get passed. We want to see the president's agenda, these tax cuts. He's 100% right. Nobody's fighting the tax cuts, by the way. There will be a massive tax increase if this bill does not get passed. We got to see it get passed. But in the meantime, a few little tweaks, a few little things here and there. All right, folks, that's probably going to be the gist of my coverage on this one big, beautiful bill. I want to get into some stuff that I saw Pete Hegseth say about the DOD. There's also some breaking news that we want to get to in some other areas of the news this morning and in our final segment of the hour. So if you think about it, please say a prayer for Charlie Kirk. He is out in the UK. He's going to have a big debate at Oxford today. So say a prayer. We'll be right back.
Researchers than the CDC. Yeah, may not be saying much. It's the Charlie Kirk Show.
All right, welcome back to the Charlie Kirk Show. We have so much going on in the Turning Point world. It's hard to keep up with, I know. We've got the Young Women's Leadership Summit coming up in Dallas, and then we've got the Student Action Summit coming up in Tampa in July. So that's June for Young Women's Leadership Summit, and then and that's Dallas. And then in July, we have the Student Action Summit in Tampa. So let's go ahead and play a little promo to the Student Action Summit 52.
USA, what we are doing every single day is we are dedicating ourselves and our staff and our students and our activists for a full revival of America.
Get ready to launch into the future of freedom at the largest student event in the nation. SAS is back. Join thousands of fellow students ready to pioneer a bold new era for America at our Student Action Summit. And we're bringing in and the biggest voices in the movement. Featuring Charlie Kirk, Tucker Carlson, Steve Bannon, Dr. Ben Carson, Congresswoman Anna Paulina Luna, Brandon Tatum, James O'Keefe, Benny Johnson, Jack Posobiec, and more. From July 11th through 13th in Tampa, Florida. Register now at SAS2025.com.
All right, that's going to be a huge event. TPUSA.com. Check it out. Register for the Student Action Summit. We do have adult tickets, so if that's you and you're in the area, come on by. Bring your kids, bring grandkids. SAS2025.com, SAS2025.com. Get your tickets today. It's going to be huge. All right, we're going to end with Joe Biden in just a second. What's going on there? We'll be right back. All right, welcome back to the Charlie Kirk Show, our final segment of the hour. I think it's fitting as we get to this, as we get to the sunset of our show hour here, that we start talking about Joe Biden, who also has a bit of a sunset of his own. I want to get into that, but first, I'm going to tell you about Herzog. Are you concerned about your child's educational path? Wondering if their current school truly supports your family's values? You're not alone. I can tell you I'm in the same boat, and the Herzog Foundation is here to help. While the Trump administration is working to abolish the Federal Department of Education and return control of it to the states, this has never been a better time to dive in deep, do a deep dive into your child's education and explore other options, including Christian education, homeschooling, all the things. The Herzog Foundation is your trusted guide to navigating these changes. Whether families are considering a Christian school, a hybrid model, or homeschooling, they provide the resources families need to make informed decisions. Visit also readlion.com to access must-read articles. And don't forget to sign up for the Lion's daily and weekly newsletter. That's readlion.com, readlion.com. Stay informed, stay equipped. It's up to you, parents. Shape your child's future. Portions of the Charlie Kirk Show are brought to you in part by the Herzog Foundation and the Lion. So let's talk about Joe Biden. So this is the piece that just like drives me nuts. Let me just tell you. Jake Tapper has a new book called Original Sin. Now, that's an ironic title because he's talking about the cover-up of Joe Biden's mental decline. And now, of course, Joe Biden has been diagnosed with cancer, a really aggressive form of cancer. He's an old man. It's not surprising. A lot of men get prostate cancer later in life. And Jake Tapper is making money off of this book and acting holier than thou, getting ahead of the narrative, as they say. Now, it's good. It's a good calm strategy. But essentially, Democrats got caught hiding the unhideable. So it's so brazen, it's so extreme that in this case, I think it's a terrible calm strategy. Instead of trying to get ahead of it and writing a book called Original Sin and making money off of it, maybe you should have just said, sorry, Jake Tapper. This is Jake Tapper in 2023 dressing down Lara Trump for daring to question the cognitive and mental abilities of Joe Biden. 223.
How do you think it makes little kids with stutters feel when they see you make a comment like that?
I think what we see on stage with Joe Biden, Jake, is very clearly a cognitive decline. Okay. That's what I'm referring to. It makes me uncomfortable.
You have no. This is so amazing. It's so amazing to me that
try and figure out an answer.
A cognitive decline.
Well, when you're trying to tell me that what I was suggesting was
I think that you were mocking his stutter. Yeah, I think you were mocking his stutter, and I think you have absolutely no standing to diagnose somebody's cognitive decline. I would think that somebody in the Trump family would be more sensitive to people who do not have medical licenses diagnosing politicians from afar.
He is one of the most sanctimonious hypocritical, garbage people on television. I have zero patience for Jake Tapper. I actually think he is a scumbag. Play cut 222. This is President Trump now openly questioning the doctors for Joe Biden. 222.
And it takes a long time to get to that situation. Now, I think, to get to a stage 9, I think that if you take a look, it's the same doctor that said that Joe was cognitively fine. There was nothing wrong with him. The AutoPen is becoming a big deal because it seems like that maybe was the president who ever operated the AutoPen.
Maybe it was the president who was operating the AutoPen. Did we elect them? No, I don't think we did. Cut 206. This is Dr. Zeke Emanuel on MSNBC on Morning Joe, of all places, saying that he definitely has had this cancer for a long time. 206.
This is not speculation. If you have prostate cancer that is spread to the bone, then he's most certainly, you were saying, had it when he was president of the United States.
Oh, yeah. He did not develop it in the last 100, 200 days. He had it while he was president. He probably had it at the start of his presidency in 2021. Yes, that I don't think there's any disagreement about that.
So are we supposed to believe that Joe Biden, with the best medical care on planet Earth, the best that money can buy, is provided for the president, that they missed this aggressive cancer that he's probably had since the beginning of his presidency? Absolutely no way in hell is that true. And here's what I'll also say. I thought the AutoPen thing was kind of a distraction. It is taking on incredibly increased meaning now. And this is a huge story. Watch this space. We don't know where it's going to go. Hour 2 coming up. Don't go anywhere. Charlie will be there.
Tried to shut them up.
There's no guarantee to free speech.
They tried to cancel them.
Deplatforming works.
They even threw them in jail.
Peter Navarro,
Steve Bannon,
now in prison.
But they couldn't stop them.
It's not a prison bill that will ever shut me up.
They call them rebels.
Basket of deplorables.
They call them rogues.
They claim to guns or religion.
And they say they're outlaws.
These are the kind of guys you like to smack in the ass.
War Room presents Rebels, Rogues, and Outlaws.
You set out to take Vienna. Take Vienna!
the national bestseller by longtime band and producer Dan Fluette. Take a journey through the pictorial history of War Room in a culture that celebrates the weak. Show your support by standing with the rebels. Go to doitfluette.com or scan the QR code on your screen. Use the code RAV20 for 20% off your order. Stand with the rebels and never back down.
Back to this Real America's Voice news break. I'm Terrence Bates. Home title theft is an insidious crime that could cost you everything you've been working your entire life for. It happens more often than you realize, and often without the victims realizing until it's too late. Former FBI Supervisory Special Agent and current Senior Advisor for Home Title Law, Arthur Fitzmyer, joins me now to discuss this and so much more. Mr. Fitzmyer, good morning.
Good morning, Terrence. Nice to be here with you.
It's good to have you. So talk about some of the vulnerabilities that allow for home title theft to happen.
Lately, what I've been doing is presenting people with the Home Title Act pop quiz just to help everybody focus on exactly where they are. There's 3 questions. 1, do you know what your title looks like? Number 2, when was the last time you saw your title? And the $500,000 question, number 3, do you know where your title is right now? Now, in each one of these questions, you usually get that blank stare with the glassy eyes. Every once in a while, someone say, well, I think I saw it when we closed 8 years ago or 10 years ago. The question is, they don't know the answers. The answer is the bad guys do. They know that your title is in the county recorder's office.
We're interrupting this program for a special live report.
So we do want to interrupt this program because we want to take you to the White House, where children are taking over the questions of the White House press secretary.
The James S. Brady briefing room. My name is Caroline Levitt, and I am the White House press secretary for President Donald J. Trump. He is the 45th and now the 47th president of the United States. My job at the White House is to communicate the president's message to the American people and to answer questions from journalists who work in this building every day, many of whom are your moms and your dads. Now, they ask me some pretty good questions, but I'm sure you will all have excellent questions to ask me yourselves. So before we open it up to questions today, I will give you a very short update on what the president is working on today. Earlier this morning, President Trump traveled to Capitol Hill to meet with members of the House of Representatives to talk about the one big, beautiful bill that we are trying to pass through Congress. The president is now back at the White House, where he is taking meetings, and later this afternoon he will be making an announcement from the Oval Office with our Secretary of Defense. He's in charge of our military, Pete Hegseth. And we live in the best country in the history of the world, and we are all very blessed to be here. So with that, thank you. I am happy to take some of your questions. And why don't you start us off, beautiful little girl? Go ahead.
What's your question for Mr. Trump?
She's thinking very hard about it.
You can ask it. You can ask it. She wants to know if Donald Trump likes to give hugs.
Oh, does he like to give hugs? You know, I think he does. I have seen him give many hugs to children and his family and our beautiful First Lady. So yes, I do think he likes to give hugs. You're welcome. Emily, would you like to ask a question?
Yes. What is the funnest part about your job and the hardest part about your job?
Wow. Well, that is definitely a very good question. I think the most fun part about my job is doing things like this with all of you in the briefing room and answering so many great questions. I think the hardest part of my job is also doing things like this in the briefing room and answering all of these questions. And reading the news is a big part of my job every day. I wake up and read the newspaper and watch the news and listen to all of the things that your parents are reporting on in the news. And that's a big part of my job every day. Frankie, go ahead. What is President Trump's favorite food? Well, President Trump loves a lot of different foods, but I think his favorite is probably steak. I've had steak with him on many occasions, and he likes to eat a big, beautiful steak. Do you like steak, Frankie? Yes? Okay. Jack, nice to see you. I like your hat. You're welcome. Would you like to ask a question?
What's the state of the border?
What's the state of the border? I can assure you the border is the most secure it has ever been in the history of our country. And I think your dad works for the Homeland Security Council, so that's a very apropos question, and your dad's doing a great job securing the border. Hazel Jane, what a beautiful name. Would you like to ask a question? Okay.
Actually, can you come back to me?
Sure. I can come back to you. I'd be happy to. Bobby Lynn?
How many people has he fired?
How many people has he fired? Thus far, actually, we have not had anyone fired, with the exception of one individual who did leave their job. But we have a great team here so far. So good. Thank you for the question. Yes, little man. Is that your mommy? Your mommy is a great journalist. What's your question?
What's Donald Trump's favorite ice cream? He wants to know.
Ooh. I have seen the president eat ice cream sundaes before with chocolate sauce and some toppings too. Raise your hand if you like ice cream sundaes. It's a very popular policy position to have. Yes, very good. Dario, would you like to go?
What is the president? If the president had a superpower, what would it be?
Wow. If the president could have a superpower, what would it be? That is a very good question. I think if he had a superpower, it would be to just snap his fingers and solve all of our country's problems just like that, because he likes to get things done very quickly, but sometimes it takes a little bit longer. Like today, he had to go to Capitol Hill to convince people to vote for his one big beautiful bill. I bet if he had a superpower, he would snap his fingers and get it passed immediately, but life doesn't work that way, unfortunately. Go ahead, buddy.
What is Donald Trump's favorite soccer player?
Favorite soccer player? You know, I don't know the answer to that. It's a very good question. I will check in with the president and get back to you. How's that sound? But I know he likes soccer and he likes all sports. Go ahead.
Does Trump leave the country like each week?
Does he leave the country each week? No, he doesn't. We left the country last week and we went on a long trip to the Middle East. Very far away, but we have some plans to leave the country later this year, but most weeks he's right here at the White House working very hard. Nora, go ahead.
Which is Donald Trump's favorite president besides himself?
It's a good question, because it would be probably himself. No, I think that perhaps he would say George Washington. I know he speaks very highly of George Washington, who was, of course, the first president of our great country, and he has his big, beautiful portrait hanging in the Oval Office above the fireplace. Good question. Go ahead. You look very professional and beautiful.
Thank you so much. What's it like? For you? I have a question for you. What is it like balancing a baby and your job as the press secretary as your age?
Sure. It's a very good question, and my baby is here with my mother. As you can see, he does not know what's going on. But it is a challenge every day, but it's also a blessing to have this opportunity and to be a mom. So you have to learn to prioritize your time and lean on your support system, which is my mother and my husband and my family and friends. And you can do it. You just have to work very hard. Yes.
Hi, my name is Marceli Victoria. My mom is Soriana Veras.
Oh, nice to meet you.
My question is, as press secretary, as the youngest Miss Press Secretary. What advice would you give to young girls like me who want to achieve their dreams?
It's a great question, and you're so beautiful. My best advice would be to work as hard as you possibly can and just pursue every opportunity that opens up and is given to you, and just work as hard as you can.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Behind you. Yeah.
What is Donald Trump going to do about climate change?
What is Donald Trump going to do about climate change? Well, that is a very good question. The president cares very much about our environment. He says all the time he wants to have the cleanest air, the cleanest water, the cleanest environment for the world. He also cares very much about our energy independence and ensuring that we can keep the lights on in our homes at a very cheap rate. So we want to make energy here in the United States because we do it cleaner and better than everyone. So I think that's how the president would answer that question. You're welcome. Go ahead.
What is your favorite country that you've been to before?
What is my favorite country I've been to before? Oh, wow. That's a very good question. Well, I've been to many countries. I lived in Italy for a few months to study, but I very much enjoyed our trip last week to the Middle East, where the president went to Qatar, Saudi Arabia, and the United Arab Emirates, and they were 3 beautiful countries. We'll take a couple more questions. To the back, that beautiful high hand. Go ahead.
What pets did Donald Trump have when he grew up and also right now?
What was that, buddy?
What pets did Donald Trump have when he grew up and also right now?
Well, he doesn't have any pets right now. I don't know if he had any pets when he was growing up. I'll have to check with him and ask, but there's no pets at the White House right now, except for our great K9 Secret Service dog friends that are here to protect us. Hazel Jane, did you remember your question?
Yeah.
Okay, let's hear it.
What's the president's religion?
What's the president's religion? The president is a Christian, and he believes in Jesus. Yes? In the back? What did the president do today? The president was very busy today. He went to Capitol Hill earlier today, and then he's here back at the White House, and he's doing meetings, and then he's going to do a big announcement at 3 o'clock where all of your moms and dads will be able to ask him questions directly. Go ahead, buddy. How much candy does he eat a day? A good amount. A good amount of candy, yes. He likes pink Starburst and Tootsie Rolls. Yes, buddy, go ahead. We'll take 2 more.
What's the president's favorite order at McDonald's?
President's favorite order at McDonald's. He loves McDonald's hamburgers and French fries. Who doesn't? They're good. In the back. Go ahead, bud.
Your least favorite news outlet?
My least favorite what?
News outlet.
I can tell you're a staff kid, not a journalist kid. Did someone say ABC? Honestly, it depends on the day. Go ahead, honey.
What is President Trump's favorite room in the White House?
Favorite room in the White House? I think his favorite room in the White House is definitely the Oval Office because it's so beautiful and he has decked it out in gold. It's now MAGA gold in there. Yes, go ahead. One more.
What's his favorite child?
That is a very controversial question, and I am not going to answer it. I know he loves all of his children very much, and they're all great kids. Some of them were here yesterday. We'll do one more to the little girl in the back behind you. Yes.
Who's your favorite president?
Who's my favorite president? Well, that's a good question to answer. Donald Trump. Thank you guys so very much. It's good to see all of you. Thank you for coming. We'll see you later. You're welcome.
It's Bring Your Kid to the White House Day. As you heard, the sons and daughters of journalists and staffers there asking questions of White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt. Some really interesting questions there. All right, folks, let's get you back to the Charlie Kirk Show, which is already in progress.
This has been a live special report. We now join our programming already in progress.
And so once we realized that the country of origin labeling law was such a thing, and we realized that there were so many marketing terms that didn't mean anything. And so as we started, we set out to go, okay, we want to know who we're buying from. We want to know where the meat's coming from. We want to see how they're being raised. We want to see what they're being fed. We want to touch that. And once we started doing that, that's when our quality went just night and day. Made it night and day. That was in 2020. And so we started seeing really good success, like I said, out of the trucks. And then we decided to go fully online in 2022. And that's when we actually started sponsoring your show. You were our first podcast that we ever sponsored.
Yeah, we love telling people that too.
Yeah. Yeah, and we just saw huge success online. And this was, again, this was in 2022, so it was after that COVID online boom. And but through 22, through 23, and through 24, and even now into 25, which has only been 4 years, we're seeing just a steady increase in subscribers and customers because there's a real difference when you source correctly, age correctly, package the way that we do. So yeah, it's I'm trying to tell the most abbreviated version of the story possible because the second part of this story of which is why we're here, main reason of why we're here is we want to get to which is Corley and her health journey. Yeah.
So before we get to that, you started selling out of the back of trucks, scaled it, all the Lord. Was there ever a moment where you're like, what am I doing selling meat?
All the time.
How did you make it happen? How did you make it work financially? Because I'm told by people all the time, you can't start businesses anymore.
We'll be right back with more from the spells. But first, I want to tell you guys about Z Factor. If you're having trouble going to sleep every night, well, I need to tell you about Z Factor. It's more than just melatonin. And if you have health issues, have you thought of identifying the fact that you were probably not getting enough sleep? Almost everybody I know that has lingering chronic health issues is not sleeping well. Not saying that if you sleep well, you have no health issues, but it's something to think about. Go to ReliefFactor.com. Sleep is a superpower that you can decide to unlock. So check it out at ReliefFactor.com. That is ReliefFactor.com. The 100% drug-free supplement can get you to have better sleep, and it gets you to then Z Factor. Sleep is a superpower. Unlock it right now. Go to ReliefFactor.com. That is ReliefFactor.com. We'll be right back, everybody. an executive order for all federal bureaucracies. Now, you can laugh, but I encourage you next time you're in D.C. to drive by the Department of Education.
Learn more in 3 hours than 4 years at a woke university. And it's free. The Charlie Kirk Show.
Okay, everybody, welcome back. Do you have private student loan debt? I bet somebody in this audience right now is suffering from private student loan debt. Maybe you have a friend, a family member, somebody that you know. Well, private student loan debt is a major problem that you guys can get reconciled at yrefy.com. That is YREFY.com. YRefy was the sponsor of our campus tour and is sponsoring our Young Women's Leadership Summit, sponsoring our Student Action Summit. They're behind so much of the important work that we are doing at Turning Point USA. So take a look at it right now at yrefy.com. That is YREFY.com. Very, very important. The work that they are doing to help you get out of private student loan debt may not be available in all 50 states. Over $300 billion in private student loan debt. That is the private student loan debt market in America. So take a look at it right now at yrefy.com. That is YREFY.com. Remember, they sponsored our campus tour, so you are referring people or using it yourself to a rock-solid, America-first conservative company. Be right back. Welcome back. Here's more with Ben and Corley Spell and their amazing story.
I say this pretty regularly now when people ask, and I don't mean it. I don't mean it like I mean it with zero trite. Like, I think it was ignorance. I think ignorance had a lot to do with it, and meaning we didn't know what we didn't know, and I was foolish enough or faithful enough to hear God and go, and just and trust that that we'll figure it out along the way. And last year there's a verse in Proverbs that really stood out to me, and it's commit your work to the Lord, and He will establish your plan or your path. And looking back, it's easy to connect the dots, right? Or hindsight's 20/20. But what I realized is we committed our work to the Lord, and He established the path. And we didn't really try to put together this massive plan. We just knew that God said, go do it. And so we started doing it. And it's just one step after the other, just doing the right thing, trusting that God's going before us. And I know that sounds kind of easy, but it was never easy, but it was also never really hard. God was faithful. The right doors opened, the wrong doors closed. Even as being able to sponsor your podcast, which your podcast has been tremendous for us. But I don't know if you remember this or not, but because we had done a little bit with it before we were online, when we were still selling out of the trucks, or with your show or something, and then we stopped. And then once we got back online, you actually approached us, or your team approached us, and because we weren't really thinking about it, but another meat company reached out to you, wanted to advertise, and you said, hey, will you call those Good Rancher guys, because I've done some ads for them before, and I'd rather just keep with one person. And we were like, oh yeah, let's do that. And so I can kind of testify even to that was God kind of working things out, because we didn't come back to you and say, hey, Charlie, like, you actually came back to us. And that was extremely successful for us once we started online, because the marketing for online was completely different than how we had to market the other way. And so then we started putting together the dots from you to Allie Beth Stuckey to some folks at the Daily Wire, and then Glenn Beck and just kind of other things. We really didn't have this elaborate plan. It just kind of pieced together little by little.
Yeah.
So then tell us about the health episode.
Oh, gosh. There's been multiple. So we have 4 children, 4 young children. They're all 7 and under. And in 21, when I was pregnant with our 4th baby, I was 6 weeks pregnant, went to a random dermatologist appointment because I felt like he had a spot that needed to be looked at. Well, lo and behold, it was actually me. And so they biopsied it, and sure enough, the results came back, and it was melanoma, which is, I didn't know anything about skin cancer, but now I do. And melanoma, skin cancer is very treatable and preventable if you catch it early, but melanoma accounts for 75% of skin cancer deaths. So it's serious, and the fact that I was pregnant was very scary as well. And so I was obviously shattered and broken and so sad, but I'm so thankful that Ben was there with me because he was really that like pillar of truth and faith that I needed to push through. And so we prayed about it. We prayed about, God, what strategy would you have us do to receive healing? And that was to have surgery in my 2nd trimester. And so we did that. And they didn't find anything else except they did in a lymph node, which put me at stage 3. But it was so small that they felt comfortable with me continuing on with the pregnancy, having her, and then going from there. But before that, they were having some really, really scary conversations with us, sending us down, asking Ben if he was prepared to be a single dad of 3 other babies if, I were to die with the baby, and just kind of pressuring me to not continue with the pregnancy, which was...
pressuring you to have an abortion?
Yes. Yep. And I told them, I was like, well, that's not going to happen. Like, I'm having this baby. And I remember going into one appointment, and my oncologist made a remark to her colleague and said, okay, and the baby's important to her. But it's just crazy how in that environment they just, treat you that way and just discount life.
Oh,
Yeah.
Absolutely. Keep going. But yes.
Anyway, so...
doctors actually don't care about human beings.
I know.
No, they don't. You think about it.
I know. Even being at MD Anderson was really hard because...
It's all just about money.
It is.
To the next patient.
It is.
Here's more with the spells. If you're pleased with this conversation, I want to hear from you. freedom@charliekirk.com. Enjoy.
America's Voice Newsbreak. I'm Terrence Bates. Harvard University is set to lose $60 million in federal funding over alleged anti-Semitism. It's the latest funding hit the Ivy League school is taking under the Trump administration, which is seeing funds along with federal contracts and grants frozen to the tune of nearly $3 billion in recent weeks. The latest cuts come from the Department of Health and Human Services amid accusations that Harvard failed to address anti-Semitic harassment and ethnic discrimination on campus. Harvard is suing the Trump administration over recent cuts, saying the university, quote, cannot absorb the entire cost of the frozen grants. As for claims of anti-Semitism on campus, the university just settled a lawsuit from a Jewish student who argued the school was ignoring anti-Semitism on campus. President Trump held a phone call with Russian President Vladimir Putin yesterday, following a 2-hour call with Russian President with the Russian president on Monday. The commander-in-chief says that Russia and Ukraine will immediately start negotiations towards a ceasefire and, more importantly, an end to the war. Here's what President Trump posted on Truth Social, saying that work is in progress. That's a quick check of your headlines. This July, there's a global summit of BRICS nations in Rio de Janeiro. The bloc of emerging superpowers includes China, Russia, India, and Iran, and they're meeting with the goal of displacing the U.S. dollar as the global currency. They're calling it the Rio Reset. As BRICS nations push forward with their plans, global demand for U.S. dollars will decrease, bringing down the value of the dollars in your savings. While this transition won't happen overnight, the Rio Reset in July marks a pivotal moment when BRICS objectives move decisively from theoretical possibility towards inevitable reality. Learn if diversifying your savings into gold is right for you. The Birch Gold Group can help you move your hard-earned savings into a tax-sheltered IRA in precious metals. Claim your free information kit on gold simply by texting America to the number 989898. With an A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau and tens of thousands of satisfied customers, allow the Birch Gold Group to arm you with a free, no-obligation information kit on owning gold before July and before the Rio Reset. Text the word America to the number 989898 today.
And president of Turning Point USA, here's Charlie Kirk.
Okay, we're back, but first I need to tell you guys about TikTok's economic impact. Look, we were a skeptic about TikTok for years. And what does a mechanic and an auto shop owner in Georgia and what we have in common? Honestly, they're going viral on TikTok and they're thriving. One of the main reasons we're reaching the generation so successfully is our ability to grow on TikTok. 74% of businesses on TikTok say that TikTok has allowed them to scale their operations, increasing sales and expanding to new locations. And that growth means jobs. Today, there's more than 7.5 million U.S. businesses on TikTok, employing more than 28 million people. And that number keeps on growing. Small businesses thrive on TikTok, and learn more about TikTok's contribution to the U.S. economy at TikTokeconomicimpact.com. That is TikTokeconomicimpact.com. Portions of our program are brought to you in part by TikTok.
Our prayer was that the baby would be healthy, I would be healthy, and I'd be healed.
Healthy she was.
Yeah, she's a giant baby. She's very, very large. She's 3 now. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Anyway, so it was fine, and then I had scans after that, and they were clear. And then last year in January, I felt another swollen lymph node next to the one that they had removed. And I just knew in my spirit, I was like, oh, this chapter wasn't closed. I got to walk this out more. And sure enough, did a biopsy.
Which we went into last year, 2024, was the first year that since starting the business that we didn't either have a newborn or you be pregnant.
Yes.
I think you mentioned earlier, last time I saw you, you were with child.
Yeah, I'm like, both times you saw me.
Yeah, every time. And so we were so excited going into, starting a business is not easy. Running a business is not easy, and we've never taken on any funding. We've completely, and we didn't have any money. We just little by little and just chipped away, and so we've definitely had some really hard times especially once we went online, because the business model just shifted 180 degrees, and so 2022 was not easy. 2023 was not easy, and again, also going through the cancer diagnosis of, through pregnancy in that. We had Daisy in 2022, got through that year. In 2023, it really felt like we were going into 24, like, yes, we're done having kids. We're ready to focus on the business. Yeah. The cancer's behind you. And then in January of 2024, that we got that diagnosis.
Yeah, and it's crazy because even going into 24, I don't ever have like a word for the year or anything, but I did feel in my prayer time that I wanted to focus on my health. Like God was asking me to focus on my health, and then, he's like, here you go. You really got to focus on it. Anyway, so we just prayed about strategy for this time. I was like, I'm thankful I'm not pregnant this time. I'm thankful that it's just me fighting it. My babies are healthy. I'm going to be fine. And so I was full of faith. I told myself, if God brought me through this being pregnant, he's going to do it again. And so we just prayed about strategy, what that looked like, and we decided on an integrative approach. So I did a lot of holistic therapies. I went to a clinic in California to kind of build up my immune system in various ways before I did immunotherapy at MD Anderson and then surgery after that. But then I got super sick. I was feeling great. I lost 30 pounds, just having 4 babies in a row, and did a strict keto diet, and then felt the strongest I ever felt. And then once I started immunotherapy, I just became so sick, just bedridden, night sweats, just soaking the entire bed, fevers, high fevers for multiple weeks. It was horrible. I've never felt like that before.
Yeah. And so we went. It was 2 rounds of immunotherapy they wanted you to go through, and so after and it's 30 days apart, and so. After the first 30-day check-in to go do the second round, you were so sick, and your doctor said, "Listen, this is what it does. It's strengthening your immune system. You got to push through. I know you're hurting. I know you're sick, but you need to push through. Take this second round, and so we're getting this thing." So we did, and
because immunotherapy is interesting.
It's like monoclonal antibodies.
Yes,
Correct.
It teaches your immune system to wake up and to start fighting, whatever's going on. And so I felt very comfortable with that. It's not like chemo, where chemo is just kind of killing everything. Sure. We did the second round.
She did it, and then only began to get more sick and more sick and more sick, and then. At the end of that 30-day stint, and then Corley was completely bedridden, and when you've got 4 little babies at home that are crying, wanting their mom,
and you're running a business,
and you're trying to, it goes without saying, it was the hardest time of our life, but the hardest thing is, especially Daisy being just at that time still just a baby. Just crying for mommy, and when she normally puts them to bed every single night, and then to go, for months, which to children might as well be years of not. She couldn't walk up the stairs, and so she was literally bedridden. That was so challenging. We go back to the hospital after the second stint, and she's in a wheelchair. At this point, and wheel her in to see the doctor, and you can.
Yeah, what started out, the lymph node was probably the size of a marble in the beginning. It now grew to the size of a grapefruit in my groin. It was huge. It was red, and it just looked really bad. I felt like I was dying. I looked like I was dying, and so I didn't know what to expect at this appointment. But we had to do a rescan before surgery. And so he's wheeling me in. I can't even stand up for a chest x-ray. It was so bad. And so we get all the scans done. And then the oncologist comes in and she says, well, your cancer laughed at the immunotherapy. It spread all over. This is not good. We can do some chemo on you to hopefully shrink it before surgery, but it's not curative. So there's no guarantees, but that's kind of the only option that we have right now.
Yeah. She said we do these treatments and we hope for a positive outcome. This is absolutely the worst outcome we could have had because there was no response from the the cancer didn't respond at all to the immunotherapy, and so. And she and the doctor, the MD Anderson doctor, knew that Corley did. Though she was very against her doing the holistic approach first. She was, makes sense. And so,
and keeping the baby, before that.
So it was kind of a little bit of like a salt in the wound of your cancer laughed at your treatment, right? Even though that. A huge part of the treatment was with them as well. It was just kind of a salt in the wound kind of comment. But so she prescribed this chemo pill, again, like Corley said, that's not curative, but they do see temporary, good results temporarily. Fun fact, on the box, it's, the number one side effect is causes more cancer. Right. And she said, but we've got to do something to try to shrink it because it's so swollen, it's so inflamed, it's so big now. Surgery would be hard. So they wanted to do something to just try to shrink it. So we leave the hospital just completely devastated. I was trying to be strong for you, but I was devastated. You don't even know this, but I got on the phone. I don't even know who it was, but I just cried. Like, I think it was your mom. Yeah. Because it's scary, and, we believed we were going to get through this. We knew we were going to get through it, but when the report is just nothing but death, when the report is just, so bad. And we're driving home from MD Anderson, and Corley looks at me and says, "What was it like when God talked to you?" And I'm like, that is so out of left field. And I said, "Well, what do you mean?" She said, "You always tell the story of when God said to start Good Ranchers, said he spoke to you and said start a meat company. What was that like?" And I said, "Why are you asking this? Like what? Like why?" And she said, and she starts crying, and she said, "Because a few weeks ago, I really felt like God told me that my cancer was dead. And to hear that report today that it laughed at the therapy," and she's like, "I just know that God told me that my cancer is dead." And we got home and we talked about it, and we said, you know what? If God said it's dead, then it's dead, and we're gonna hold on to that. And we're gonna believe that. And then she looks at me and she says, "I don't want to take the chemo." And I'm like, "I think you should take I think you should do the chemo." And she said, "No, I don't want to do it." And she's like, "I'm tired of being sick. I'm tired. I don't want to do it." And I said, "Okay. Then we're going to pray and we're going to believe that God said it was dead. We're going to stand on that." And she never took the chemo pills. And in a matter of days, the whole area started shrinking, and it was all inflamed. It was hugely swollen. It started shrinking. She started feeling better, and about a week later, she was feeling good.
Yeah, could walk.
Good. She was walking.
Yeah.
And she called her doctor and said, "Hey, I want a rescan before surgery." And they said, "No, you don't need a rescan. We've got everything we need." She said, "No, I'm telling you, I want a rescan before surgery." And so we went back in about 2 weeks later at that point. We went in for a rescan, and they said, "Great news, the chemo's working. Don't get excited because this is what it does. We know it can temporarily cause shrinkage, but it's not curative. But this is good news for surgery because this will help us get in there and do the surgery." And so we just looked at each other. We didn't say it. We knew better than to tell them anything. So we just looked at each other and we knew. And then 2 weeks later, she went in for surgery. And after the biopsy of surgery, Corley loves to tell the story that she didn't need him to call because she already knew, and she was so full of faith. But they called, and they said, "Hey, every bit of cancer that we removed was completely dead," which means something worked. And the first report of your cancer, laughed at your treatment, laughed at the therapy. Something worked.
Yeah.
And
even the other lymph nodes that they removed, that they thought that they were seeing cancer and never had cancer in them at all. So it's just, obviously God is wonderful and miraculous.
Before we head to break, I'm going to tell you about Alan Jackson Ministries. I think the world of Alan Jackson. What a great man and a serious person. And he has a new podcast called the Culture and Christianity Podcast, the Alan Jackson Podcast. What makes it unique is Pastor Alan's biblical perspective. He takes the truth from the Bible and applies it to the issues that we're facing today. Gender confusion, abortion, immigration, Doge, Trump, and the White House, issues in the church. He doesn't just discuss the problems. In every episode, he gives practical things we can do to make a difference. His guests have incredible expertise and powerful testimonies. Each episode will make you recognize the power of your faith and how God can use your life to impact our world today. The Culture and Christianity Podcast is informative and encouraging. You can find it on YouTube, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss any episodes. Alan Jackson Ministries is working hard to bring biblical truth back into our culture. You can find out more about Pastor Alan and his ministry at alanjackson.com.
American made. And darn proud of it. The Charlie Kirk Show.
Before we finish this conversation with the spells, I need to tell you about Patriot Mobile. Patriot Mobile has been a long partner with us. In fact, I'm working more and more closely with Patriot Mobile on a variety of important projects. Patriot Mobile is a great way where you can make the switch away from woke wireless to a company that shares your values. You should check it out right now at patriotmobile.com/Charlie. That is patriotmobile.com/Charlie. You see, Patriot Mobile is a phenomenal way. It is a proven way that you are able to get the same coverage, in fact, even better coverage than the other guys, the bad guys that are funding all this woke stuff. So go to patriotmobile.com/Charlie or call 972-PATRIOT. They have been great partners. Glenn, I literally just had dinner with Glenn. I talk to him all the time. Very on board for what they're doing. Go to patriotmobile.com/Charlie. That is patriotmobile.com/Charlie. So take a look today at patriotmobile.com/Charlie.
there's also part of the story where you have to advocate for yourself. And
yeah, what did the doctors say when you told them this stuff?
Yeah, so we went for the follow-up after surgery, and they're going over the results, and my oncologist thinks I'm crazy at this point, and she's just kind of smug about it, like, yeah, it's good, but it's not the best because it was just from the chemo, so you'll have to keep taking these pills for the next year. And I looked at her, and I said, well, I didn't take the pills, and her jaw just dropped behind her mask, and she's like, well, what do you mean you didn't take the pills? And I said, God told me that the cancer was dead, and I didn't need to take them. And she's just like, okay. And then she asked, she said, well, did he say anything about radiation? I'm like, who, God? And she said, no, your surgeon. And I'm like,
no, but how do doctors respond to supernatural phenomenon?
I know, right?
And they just smugly roll it off, I guess.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's God. I mean, there's a spiritual domain that's acting on our physical world every day. It is something that's always, just bothered me. Why? So they say you didn't take the pills. How does she write that in her chart?
You could tell she was upset that I didn't listen to her. But
she's upset that you're alive.
I just kind of had to help her in that moment. So I said, hey, the first plan worked. Your first plan worked. Kind of had to get her pepped up almost. And yeah, I mean, I feel like I'm there at this point to witness to her and the rest of the team because they're so lost. And I can only imagine the grief that comes with having that position. But yeah, that was a total miraculous healing.
It shouldn't be grief. It should be.
It should be
joy, right?
Yes, it should be.
Yeah. So you're cancer free.
Yeah.
Wow. Praise the Lord. When was all of this?
This was last summer.
Wow. June of last summer.
Yeah, this was a year. I mean,
and you feel great?
A year ago.
I feel great.
Yeah, surgery was in June.
Awesome. Yeah.
And you've had three scans since, and she goes back.
How did you run the business during all of this?
Man, it was tough. Have a great team around us, though. I have a really great team that really stepped up, and the Hebrews 12 verse 1 has really been on my heart lately, and it's we see with such a great cloud of witnesses, let us lay aside every weight and the sin that so easily ensnares us, and that just jumped out to me this past week of there's weight and there's sin, and so often we just think, we know that the wages of sin is death, but there's things that just weigh us down. And especially as men, we're professionals of carrying weight. And the truth is, we're supposed to give those weights to God. We're supposed to give our cares to Him. We're supposed to cast them on Him, right? And again, it sounds easy, but that's what it was. It was giving those cares, giving that weight to the Lord, because I'm not strong enough to carry it on my own. Again, we have a great team that came around us and helped us through, but yeah, for the joy set before Him, He endured the cross. And if our hope was in this life only, we'd be miserable. But we know that there's a hope beyond this life that's beautiful, and it sucks to see your wife going through this. You never want to see your wife or your kids go through anything. But again, our hope isn't in this life only. Our hope is in Jesus, and our hope is in heaven. And so, we're here to run a race, and that's all we can do. So, the answer to your question was just, and I was inspired by Corley's faith. So the answer to your question is faith in Jesus. But Corley was so inspirational because she never lost her faith. She never lost as much pain as she was in, as much as she was hurting. She never lost that faith, and that was...
Had a word.
Yeah, it was miraculous to watch.
Yeah.
How did your kids know what was going on?
No.
They just knew Mommy was sick.
Yeah, they knew Mommy was sick and that she'd be healed, so we were praying and believing for that. So we'll tell them one day.
And so the business is doing well now.
Yeah.
Tell us about it.
Yeah.
And tell us about how you're, we only have a couple minutes, but tell us how you're navigating all of the news with tariffs. You guys you're not impacted by tariffs though, right? So you say more tariffs the better, right?
I mean, knock on wood, because you know this, but we need import-export.
It's an interconnected supply chain
for economy. And so
but you're not importing New Zealand beef. We'll be back with more tomorrow with Andrew hosting and another interview from me.
America's Voice family.
Are you on Getter yet? No?
What are you waiting for?
It's free.
It's uncensored.
And it's where all the biggest voices in conservative media are speaking out.
Download the Getter app right now. It's totally free. It's where I put up exclusively all of my content 24 hours a day. You want to know what Steve Bannon's thinking? Go to Getter.
That's right. You can follow all of your favorites. Steve Bannon, Charlie Kirk, Jack Posobiec.
And so many more.
And the best part?
You can watch Real America's Voice right there on Getter.
Live.
So join the conversation.
Hop on the Getter chat room.
Engage with patriots who are just like you.
Good morning, Getter friends.
We're breaking news, we're delivering the truth,
and we're doing it on Getter
every single day.
So don't wait. Download the Getter app now.
Sign up for free and be part of the movement.
It isn't just an app. It isn't just a social media platform. It's a community.